Folks, I gotta be perfectly honest with you. With the hurricane of awful currently plaguing not just the US, but the world, where do you turn? What do you talk about first? Do you talk about the New York Times playing cover and trying to downplay the gas crisis? Do we talk about the ever-increasing crisis at our southern border? Do you talk about how the media, politicians, celebrities, and athletes blame racism for any problem they have or see? Do you talk about what looks like the beginning of a war between Israel and what basically amounts to Hamas? For that matter, do you talk about the current sitting members of Congress who openly support terrorists? Do we talk about the hyperinflation hitting our economy? Or do we talk about how people don't want to work because the Biden regime is incentivizing laziness through paying people more to stay at home and pick their nose than get a job? Whatever the case, those of us who knew better warned everyone that things like this would happen if Biden took the White House. Now, we're stuck with a confused man leading the country into a state of confusion, and that's just the way the left likes it. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me one more time on Things That Need to Be Said for MRC TV. I'm Nick Kangadis. So where do we start? How do we unravel this giant ball of confusion? Well, let's begin there. Confused is just how Beijing, Biden, and his regime want the American people to be. A confused populace might ask questions, but when there's too many questions to ask about so many topics, each topic doesn't get the attention it needs. Think about it. It's kind of like how the establishment, and when I say that, I mean the media, politicians, celebrities, and athletes, but it's kind of like how they treat any situation. They divide the people as much as they can about any and all topics. If it's about a police-involved situation, someone's got to be a racist. If it's about letting dudes play women's sports, they sick the alphabet mafia on people who rightfully don't think it's fair to actual women.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
If it's about immigration, they call those who think people should come into the country legally as xenophobes. And if we're talking about the COOF, they'll label you as a murderer just because you believe the science that says the difference between wearing a mask and not is negligible. But I mean, how about the people who aren't very politically engaged or just go along to get along by basically skimming the news? And let me just say, it's not those people's fault when all the majority of them want is to take care of themselves and their families by not working their dream jobs just to make an honest buck, which is ironically being devalued by the day. But what about those people? When all they hear is absolute stupidity and ignorance from intentionally divisive people like Michelle Obama when she says that she fears for her daughter's safety because, she's black and she's worried, quote, about what assumption is being made by somebody who doesn't know everything about them, unquote. Basically, the institution of the police is racist and you never know what can happen if you're black. To be fair, it also doesn't help when you pistol whip a pregnant woman, or do a boatload of fentanyl, or try to stab someone, or shoot an officer with a taser. Now, those are individual cases and is in no way an indictment of the entire black community. That's not what I'm saying. But the fact that I kind of have to say that or I'll be considered a racist is an indictment of the society that the left has created in their image. And it is their image. Look at the history of this country. There is no bigger racist than a leftist. Yes, I said it because it's true and I'm tired of being nice and not calling them out on it more directly. But that seems to be the problem with every issue beating the crap out of our society at this moment in time. The left is the problem. The left has always been the problem. The right has had their fair share of horrible people. What segment of society doesn't? But they're usually the career politicians that have pulled the wool over our eyes for decades. That being said, the left, specifically the far left, as portrayed by people like AOC, Jussie Smollett, Bill de Blasio, Antifa, the BLM organization, and many others, pathological liars, are the problem. Dividing this country is their passion and profession. We can blame Biden all we want, and sure, he does warrant a fair bit of blame because he's been an elected shyster for decades, but really, he's just a puppet who likes any major title people will gift him, like president. No, it's people like Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, and many others who are simply opportunists that care not one bit about any of you unless you can do something that lines their pockets and/or pushes their agenda. I asked a bunch of questions earlier, so really quick, let's look at why these things might really be happening because of. Why is the left so gung-ho about downplaying that there are gas shortages? Maybe that's just what they want you to think. In reality, a gas crisis is exactly what the left wants. They've been pushing the Green New Deal for 2 years now. They knew that nothing would be done about it unless a puppet was placed in the White House and they took over Congress. 2 years later, here we are. AOC preaching to anyone that will put a camera on her about how racism fuels climate change. These people will say anything in order to achieve their socialist utopian dream while the rest of us live in misery. Champagne socialism at its finest.
I am told this is a garbage disposal. I've never seen a garbage disposal. I never had one in any place I've ever lived. It is terrifying. I don't know what to use it for or what its purpose is.
The crisis at the southern border. Yeah, we're still waiting for Kamala to check that out. She's too busy, though, trying to get to the root causes of the problem, like the Wendy's lady keeps telling us.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you, but I'll circle back if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back. I'm happy to circle back.
The truth? What follows a vice president wherever they go, folks? That's right, cameras. You really think she wants to go to a place that will just prove all their haters right? You think she's going to pay 1 minute of attention to a situation that sees multiple small children taking refuge by themselves in a Texas farmer's field? As far as the Middle East, Hamas and their supporters, some of them in our own US Congress, will always cry foul when Israel defends itself from terrorists, but will justify the hundreds of bombs being hurled at Israel for no other real reason than they want Israel to cease to exist. That's been the truth for 70 years and no one will say it anymore. Why do you think Hitler was such a fan of the Middle East Muslims at that time? Because of their commitment to killing Jews. And the price of, well, everything? Inflation is good for the left because it justifies their nonstop call to irrationally raise the minimum wage in their warped minds. A minimum wage that, by the way, shouldn't exist in the first place if we're truly trying to be a free market society. But then the fight for 15 falls flat when you realize that the Biden regime is essentially giving people $16 an hour to stay unemployed. And now they're saying that they want proof people on unemployment are actually looking for jobs. Yeah, that'll go about as well as how the left typically keeps track of illegal immigrants who they tell to appear in court 3 months after they commit the crime, and yes, it is a crime, of crossing the border. They want inflation because it does what everything else does that we've talked about here today, cause panic and confusion. Of course, this is all a philosophical argument, but the fact still remains that the establishment loves when panic and confusion reign. You know how I know? People are still wearing masks, social distancing, and not living their lives because a government entity told them to trust them. Pro tip, folks, don't. So, what's your take on all this? Am I way off, or were these things that needed to be said? I'd really like to know, so comment down below where I do read most and reply to some. And don't forget to subscribe to our Rumble channel. If you like this video, don't forget to comment, share, and give it a thumbs up. Those are the best ways to help these videos reach more people, and it's the best way to let us know you want us to keep these videos coming. Subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube might actually let you know when MRC-TV comes out with a new video if they haven't taken it down or censored it yet. Like us on Facebook and check out more of our work at MRCTV.org. For MRC-TV, I'm Nick Kangadis.